Welcome back, everyone. Spring and summer is a time for new growth and taking bold action together. So we hope these stories can inspire you to live boldly, take wise chances, and with our friends and family, make a difference together. Today we will be reading A Journey to the Center of the Earth by Jules Verne, retold by Billy Aronson. So as we lean in with the spirit of adventure, grab a friend, like Jade here, and let's enjoy the story together. Chapter 19, Kaboom! When I think of that day, I still shudder. It was the 27th of August, and it was the beginning of the end. At 6 o'clock, we were awake and ready. Eager as I was, I begged for the honor of lighting the fuse. Our plan was this. Oh, there's a plan. That's good to know. Our plan is this. After lighting the fuse, I joined my uncle and Hans on the raft. In the 10 minutes between lighting the fuse and the explosion, we would sail as far from the cave as possible. When it was time to put the plan into action, my heart beat wildly. I opened the lantern and lit the fuse. I watched it sparkle and hiss for a moment, then I charged to the raft. Hans pushed off with the pole to send us flying across the water. As we sailed away, my uncle watched the time. Only 5 more minutes, he said. Only 4, only 3. My pulse raced. Only 2, he noted. Only 1 more minute, and mountains of granite will crumble beneath the power of man. And then came the blast. The roar was deafening, but I was distracted from the noise by the other terrifying things that were happening all around me. The walls of rock in front of us parted like curtains. Meanwhile, a huge hole was opening up in the floor ahead. A single gigantic wave hurled us upwards. Then we were cast down into the hole, which had opened up to become a wide chasm. Saknussemm's path had been cleared, but instead of climbing down gradually, we were plunging into it and taking the whole sea with us. For hours we fell. Our little raft carried along by the racing water. Our lamp had been damaged during the explosion, and water spraying all around made it impossible to light a torch. I could hardly see our surroundings. It felt as though we were rushing almost straight down at over 100 miles an hour. Hours passed. I groped for our cargo, but found that almost everything had been washed away or destroyed. Worst of all, could it be possible? No food. I examined very carefully every inch of the raft, searching for even a scrap. All I found was a piece of meat and some biscuits, not enough to keep us alive for a day. I hardly had time to think about the horrors of starving when suddenly our raft was doused with water. The 3 of us gripped one another tightly so we wouldn't be swept away. Yet for a moment, I wished I had been swept away from this awful boat, for the entire raft and each of us on board was below water. Unable to breathe, I panicked. Seconds later, the water rushed away and we could breathe again. As we continued to fall, I became so exhausted that I couldn't stay awake. When I woke after a few hours of grotesque nightmares, it seemed that we had come to a halt. The roaring of the waves beneath us had stopped. Do you realize what has happened? My uncle said. We're going up now. I reached out to touch the wall in an instant. The flesh was nearly torn from my hand. We were climbing even more quickly than we had fallen. My uncle was finally able to light a torch, and we saw that we were soaring up a narrow well. The waters of the Central Sea, having reached the bottom of the well, were now thrusting us up through the shaft. We sped upwards so fast that I felt it popping in my ears. I was petrified. At some point, Uncle, I asked, aren't we bound to come upon smashing under the granite roof? Axel, he replied, I do believe the situation is somewhat desperate. At any moment we might be killed, but at any moment we might also be saved. So let's be ready for whatever may come. I screamed, but we're totally helpless. No, he answered. Where there is life, there is hope. Now let us eat so that we can be strong enough to face either victory or death. I was in no hurry to tell him the bad news. Eat? I asked. Yes, at once, he said as he rubbed his shivering hands together. I feel like a starving prisoner. Hans shook his head slowly. I held out the little piece of meat that remained. My uncle stared in disbelief. Well, I said after a pause, what do you think now? Do you still believe we have the slightest chance of survival? Things are looking grim for our traveling trio. What happens next? Read on. That does it for chapter 19. We'll see you next time for our last chapter, chapter 20.